short one.
You do want to make
I don't know about what to say, but
no, his plans, and he's always got plans. He's got to be off at a certain time. He's got
but
a
I'm
very
always
strict
very
schedule.
flexible with that, and
I didn't realise how sort of anal and over the top you are with your schedules. You do run your life like a sort of militant army routine, don't you?
Yeah, well, sort of.
The thing is, I bet you are. I bet you
Ancestors.
are a bit like Karl, though. You're going. He's having long chats about how someone's wound him up. He says he's busy.
I'm never late.
I'm never late. You are never late, actually. You're always too early. And I'm always too late.
You're always late.
We balance each other out.
Except when we connected on Skype, I'm sometimes late. But
yeah, that's true. Which is what this is, because we are still recording. This is the D-Trap
Smooth,
because we are still recording this remotely because Gary doesn't want to meet up and spend money.
That's not true. I do. I just don't. I'd rather not meet up
because he is wearing trackies.
I always wear trackies now. So.
Yeah, it's comfortable. You're rustling a lot.
Me.
Try not to rustle so much if you could help it, please.
Oh, I'm fidgeting. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, can you not do that?
I have to sit like this.
That's just a stone sculpture. Anyway, how are you?
Man. yeah, I'm all right. Was that the beginning? Are we going to use that?
That is the beginning. Can use that.
Okay.
That's all usable stuff.
He's the editor, so he knows. He knows what to do with that. Yeah, I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. I had a few days off this week, off work, and do you know what? I did absolutely naff all I did was just watch The Simpsons. That's literally all I did.
Which episodes? Give me some good Simpsons references.
Like mostly 6, 7, and 8 seasons.
That's good.
I've just actually finished, which is always one of my favourites. You Only Move Twice, which is that's probably up there with. I think that's up there with Trash of the Titans. I really like Trash of the Titans, actually. I remember I used to get Simpson best ofs on VHS and a collection of them. Probably don't have them anymore, but that was on one. But it's funny, when he runs as sanitation commissioner, he's got the finger on the button. What button? Who are you talking to?
Yeah.
And everyone was saying that was like how Donald Trump was. And that's about as political as I'll get.
Well, yeah.
How Homer behaves with him. The kind of rhetoric that he plays.
Trump. Yeah, they're very prophetic in that way in what they prophesized with Trump. They did an episode, actually, with Trump, being president. Sort of years ago, years before he was president. You Only Move Twice. The one it's where he goes like, "If you got any sugar?" And he's like, looks into his pockets. He's like, "Oh, I've got some here." Like,
do you need any cream?
Do you want any sugar?
No.
Yeah. No. That's such a complex story for told in 23 minutes or something. With ads about 22 minutes long. Think of that, how complex that story is. Like what happened, why they moved, and this thing, and then there's different subplots and things. It's amazing. That one in particular episode is always amazes me as to how they get that into such a short space of time and tell that story. So it's quite.
I always think it sits in isolation, that episode as well, because there's no exposition or anything. It literally starts off as we're going to give someone at the nuclear power plant a new job, and that's the setup. Like normally Simpsons episodes, they'll do something that's totally unrelated to the main content, but it kind of leads into it nicely. Yeah. But this one is like its own little movie.
Yeah, it's so complex. Is this a new podcast we're doing, or?
I would mind actually. But anyway, no, this is totally different. Already.
What are they called? Stay at Homer.
Stay at Homer. Go listen to them. But for now, stay tuned to this, because this is the D-Trout Spinners with your friends Miles and Gary. Just getting better all the time. I'm a bit like Camfield, you could say, in this episode. He was actually a legit.
Listen,
anyway,
I've got to be done by 1:30, so we better get on with this.
Well, speed up.
My schedule. Okay. No, I'm joking.
This week we discussed Series 3, Episode 7, 20th of December 2003. Karl is on holiday.
8.
Episode 8. I stand corrected. Let's do that again. This week we discussed Series 3, Episode 8, 20th December 2003. Karl is on holiday in Lanzagrotty, so Ricky and Steve are joined by Xfm DJ Ian Camfield. I'll put a link to the show in the show notes, and you can listen to that, which is what we did for now, because we're going to review it.
Hi.
Hello. I forgot to do that bit. Sorry, hello, you all right? Thanks for joining us.
Is this why Reddit don't like us, because of that bit?
So I don't think that's the only reason.
No,
I had a few. It's the last review we had on Apple Podcasts. Let's check that. This is good. It says, If you like the XFM show, listen to the XFM show.
You won't like this.
Unlistenable. Cheers, David S. Milton. He won't be listening.
What sort of name is that?
It's
They're like Howard Stern listeners, though. They love it. They're our bulk audience. So back to
this. Yeah. What was I going to say? Okay, so I think for both of us...
You were just doing a little introduction
to
the episode, which I think you've done enough.
And that is, and that's basically it. So I think for both of us, this is an episode we were certainly less familiar with, definitely in the lower sort of listens of our respective iPods.
I'd never listened to it.
I think this is probably a third time for me. So I do feel a bit like my critical faculties will need to be tested in this episode to deconstruct it. Because it's not like listening to a regular episode where you're so familiar with it and you know exactly what sentence they're going to say. So this is, it feels quite nice actually in a way to review something you've only listened to
it's a nice experience to kind of we will never have that again in our lives. The first time you listen to the XFM shows and what it kind of, after you'd listen to a few and then you listen to all the other ones, so you're bought into that world and you listen to it the first time. It's like you'll never have that's kind of joy. But this one isn't like a joy, but it was interesting to kind of listen to. It wasn't bad, but it was like, wow, this is content that I around that time created in that sphere that I've never actually listened to. It put me off once. I just went onto it, put it onto a random time, and they were talking about farts for about a minute, and I thought, okay, right, I'm not ever gonna, and I never listened again. But it's not as bad as I thought that bit. I hate it.
No, but Steve brings it up as well. It's a bit of surprise. But can you imagine though? I mean, he does live. Well, he worked with Ricky Gervais. Can you imagine just being that? Having that sort of intimacy with someone.
No, I hate that.
I like doing the show with you, but I think it would be so funny if we had like a writer's room and being with each other 24/7. That must take its toll on you, like after a while.
But did you notice though that Ricky, moving on from that disgusting stuff, that Ricky is absolutely completely hyper. He's not playing the role of a hyper, because sometimes he plays the role of hyper, when he's kind of berating Karl because it kind of works for the humour. But he's genuinely so hyper for the whole episode, but particularly the first few minutes. He's he's really excited to have Camfield in, but you'd think, I guess it's because it's a change, because Camfield's really calm and
he doesn't barely talk.
He doesn't rise to kind of that, not the bait, because it's but
that level of energy.
I've never heard Ricky like that.
Nor have I. He really does. He jumps on it, doesn't he? And I think he likes
Camfield's on a rock, and he can't get enough words out.
And he's obsessed by the character of Camfield and the joy of being able to play some classic rock metal, because I think Ricky is clearly, like Ian, clearly a muso and a bit of a classic rock head. I mean, this show is a lot about the music, isn't it? I mean, they play some, The Who and Rainbow.
Do you mean the show, the XFM shows in general, or this particular show?
This particular one is quite
very much about music.
Random music. And then also, it says he wants Ian to name the 4 pillars of rock and the king who stands astride them. Yeah. Which I'm going to put that in my favourite quote straight away. Yeah, I just like, because he says it 3 times, stride. I've never how a word can be funny. Himself. Yeah, it's hilarious.
A lot on this one. Yeah. He's so I think he's obsessed with getting Camfield's kind of, because he sees him as a bit of a rock genius, which I guess he is. Apparently he must have good credentials, but Ricky loves. I think if it was always Camfield, he wouldn't be as excited.
Oh, exactly.
He wouldn't be good. But on this particular occasion, it's really excited Ricky, because he's he can talk music properly, which you can't do with Karl. You can do it with Karl, but he's just not going to be involved in that discussion.
I'm not that bothered.
Not that bothered about music. You get, it's all a bit the same.
But they do. He comes to it anew, doesn't he, Ian? And I think, as we do, because they do loads of things he realised, we don't have a theme tune. Ricky doesn't wear headphones. They actively diss XFM on stage. And I love the way we're talking about my career and other radio stations I could work for.
Yeah, Camfield's interesting as a guest, as a producer, because he really isn't in that world, that sphere of them. Whereas Karl is in his way, Steve is in his way.
Yeah.
They're all involved. Claire kind of has her way of, she deals with it she laughs a lot. But Camfield's just if you he was like, if you put a relatively ordinary person in that weird sort of environment and setting, it's not that he laughs a bit as well, but
Ricky goes on to he says, we haven't talked about little gay fellas, little Chinese fellas, little monkey fellas, and Ian must be just thinking, what the hell?
I know, because he does sound like dazed a bit. He's not quite buying into it, which is all right. It's just like he's not quite going along with the jokes. He laughs at the overtly funny things, but he just doesn't get. Who would?
It's just so surreal, isn't it?
They go quite heavy on the Chinese people. Like,
yes, they do.
And at least Ricky, I was annoyed because I'm really annoyed with Ricky. I have no interest in this stat, particularly or making a joke of it. But when Ricky says in a previous episode, if there's 1 billion Chinese fellas, that means there's like 100,000 little gay
lesbian Chinese fellas,
which is not. Statistically, it's nowhere near. As someone who's interested in science and things, he was off by a factor of 1,000. It's 1 in 100 million. It will be 100 million rather than 100,000. So he's so way off. It annoys me, but he gets it right in this one.
It's quite a hill to die on.
Not that I don't find that particularly funny in itself, but I want just to pure maths. That's a maths observation. That's Gary's maths for this week.
I did read there are actually 1.4 billion Chinese people in the world.
Yeah, now, but back then they would have been.
Oh yeah, that's true.
It's about right.
I do like how, because Ricky is totally and shagging. I like how Ricky he does aspire to be that level of DJ. I think the little part of him wants to be that good.
Yeah.
Because when he does, and it's coming up to this is coming up as feeder. He's like Ricky's. You can almost see the love in his eyes and the smile on his face.
He does that really well.
Really well.
Really professionally. Like, he's very good at that. It's not like, there's other skills to have. I'd much rather listen to Ricky, who has no formal skills at all. Yeah. But he's funny and interesting. Camfield's not. I'm not saying Camfield's unfunny, but he's really good when he does that link and a couple of links. Like, he can really suddenly turn it on, and he's got that kind of voice that's, it's authoritative. You think, I'm listening to a radio presenter, which you never think with Ricky, which I don't want to, but I'd rather Karl, Ricky, Steve. But Camfield he's a professional, if nothing else.
Talking of professional radio presenters and stories, he almost does a little it's like part 2 of that. There was a story in the news.
Oh yeah.
Is it where he says, weird one that. Don't know. What do you think of the first time we heard that? Strange one. John Lennon, Yoko Ono, war is over. It is at the moment. He's out there. I just thought that's so sweet, isn't it?
Yeah.
You just, because it's you hear it all the time in Magic, don't you? You just got to keep talking, just keep. Just say
and they're talking to themselves as well. Often it's just them.
I've got such an appreciation of radio. I listen to obviously James O'Brien. I just think we struggle to talk. And there's 2 of us.
We do. Yeah. Well, that makes it worse.
But you can't be better on stop. Our own. You've got to keep talking. You've got to keep talking. Talk. It's such a hard thing to do. So I think to do those solo shows like Ian, he's clearly, as you say, well-versed professional, and he's always welcome on this show if he wants to come on. And so is Claire.
I did tweet him and said he had a new cardigan or something. Yeah. I tweeted him his 12th birthday, but
trying to entice him with
got no feedback there.
Nostalgia.
And Claire.
Or maybe. What else do we like about this episode?
What do I like about it? I mean, I guess it's something different. It was new, so it was something new to listen to. It's not as bad as I thought. Camfield is. I kind of like the balance between Camfield and Ricky, who's so hyper, Ricky. But I'm glad Camfield didn't kind of try and copy him, mirror him, because Ricky's obviously a bigger name. To be fair to Camfield, he was just like his own person. So that was kind of nice, that kind of hyperactivity versus then you've got Steve, who's sort of in the middle, and then you've got Camfield, who's just reacting like a normal human being would, who doesn't understand anything about the references and things.
I've got some good feedback. Well, not feedback. They're like, I found a good cross section of comments on the YouTube.
About us?
No, about this show.
Oh, great.
on YouTube, but it's like a nice what people say about the show, which is coming up later next Xfm in the community, alongside all of our normal correspondence and some Twitter polls and stuff. We've also got our favourite quotes coming up. I should say it this time. A couple of things I like about this episode.
One breath you did that in.
Tired
professional. Like Camfield.
Steve hates being ripped off. More cheap stories from Steve. And a thing that dates this show is he says, I tell you what, I'm loving online shopping at the moment. That is how we do things now,
That was like the earliest probably hadn't started back then.
You're buying your groceries online and stuff.
Well, it wasn't many episodes ago, the one which listeners will know, where Steve goes, I think he's looking up Victoria Plum, and he goes, right, so I found some online. So it's on eBay, which is EBAY. .co.uk.
Well, he even calls it like the online auction website, doesn't he? So it makes it completely obvious what it is. Like,
but to spell out eBay as if we wouldn't know it. But back then, of course, it's understandable because people didn't know eBay. But that really dates it. In fact, it's so dated that eBay has since become superseded by Amazon. So you might, a very young person might not know what eBay is because it's actually quite old-fashioned now. Whereas in those days, it was cool.
And Netflix was still Love Film, wasn't it?
I don't even know. Well, I loved it.
On Steve, because I do like these shows where they get a sub in, because you get more Ricky and Steve, and you just remember how wonderful they were and their chemistry and everything. What I like about Steve is Ricky constantly goes on about how he's mates with Jonathan Ross, how he goes out with all these like celeb mates, but you get a little insight into Steve's life where he's mates with Darren Brown, which I always just, I don't know why that makes me smile. I'm just happy knowing that, you know, he gets a bit of special treatment.
Yeah, he's I think you mentioned before, he's a friend of Darren's more than Ricky was, and I've seen him on Darren Brown. Like years and years ago.
Yeah, so
Darren did some, you know, it's like asking him to pick one of the three, and he psyched him out as usual. But yeah.
Is it because he was naked?
It's kind of because he's naked. But I was surprised, like I was sort of pleased to have Jonathan Ross call it. Like it was interesting. And at first to me, I didn't know because I
forgot that.
Maybe I'd heard it, but I'd forgotten. And at first I was trying to think, is this really Jonathan Ross? But it is definitely Jonathan Ross, and I know they're friends anyway, so he would call it. But that was quite a nice bit to the show. It's something a bit different. It reminded me of the Series 0 times where they have random people call in, but then it's more random, like Ricky's mum. But that felt a bit like that because they never have people call in, or usually on the main show.
The things he says, Jonathan. I saw there's a picture. It was like a girl. It's like a dyke at a wedding.
I thought, imagine now, like if that. I'm not saying if he came out, but imagine saying those words like on broadcast now. Your career would be over in a second, whoever you are.
But
back then, it was kind of like, if you're joking.
That's how it was. Because it was just,
you're a gay. What did he say? Like, you're a gay, a big gay or something like that. I can't believe it. I'm not saying that, by the way.
No, of course, no one, everyone knows.
I'm surprised at Jonathan Ross. I'm just going.
He's so scared. But there are those little things like, I'm masturbating now. You just think of dodgy. There are so many dodgy stories that keep coming out, like John Barrowman getting his knob out during the recording of Doctor Who, and you're just like, that world was a different place, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I used to love Jonathan Ross though, the show. But Four Puffs and the Piano, stuff like that ain't gonna age well, is it? They'd sing as the guests came on stage.
You can almost do that, but it's just what he's saying here about you're a girl. Just even saying that is like,
I know.
You can't do that. But it's fine. It's interesting to have him call in. It's interesting to hear Jonathan Ross. Actually, it was crap audio, but that for some reason that made it a bit better. But Ricky was echoing.
There's a dodgy echo as well during that whole section.
It's annoying, but it made
annoying.
It feel like he was just calling up Jonathan Ross, just randomly, like
what he was.
It didn't feel like a radio show.
Quick little questions. Have you ever used a bidet?
Quick quiz. Have I ever used what? I've tried.
Have you?
Yeah, I've tried.
How did you try? Were you serious?
I just discussed it. Yeah, I have tried. But no, I've never. I just went back to not using a bidet. Let's say they're not. They are. It's quite pleasant, but it's sort of like. You need to really get soap in there and things to make.
Oh my god!
Yeah, but that's what you got. If you just use the water,
I just think it's just not practical.
You got to have strong knees to squat over it like that because you can't sit right back down in it because the water won't.
Do you hold the wall?
Penetrate you? No, you squat. You round the other way, aren't you? So you're squatting in the other way.
Oh god!
Sort of back in like a toilet.
I mean, to be honest, it probably is cleaner in all honesty, isn't it?
Well, you're obsessed with cleanliness. I am as well.
I'm not obsessed.
No, we are. You are. But we both wash our hands with soap and water when we've had a piss.
That happened the other day. I went to
a lot of men.
When you're having a piss, I went to the pub. This is a choir practice actually. Some person, which I'll bring up later. I went to use the bathroom because I had a pint beforehand, so needed to use the bathroom. Person comes out. And he's standing in front of me, and he walks up, and he hasn't washed his hands. I'm like, he's singing in front of me as well. I'm like, mate,
Yeah, he's holding
COVID.
he's holding those choir notes, that song sheet. What's it called? The sheet with the lyrics and the music on.
Lyric
Holding
sheet,
one of
yeah.
them. Probably hands that back in next week.
Yeah,
It
that's
could
what I
come out
mean.
to you, that one.
Oh, made me sick.
No, it's
But
disgusting.
it is disgusting.
And it is when you're having a piss as well. That's when you should do it. Well, obviously, I wouldn't have other things as well. But yeah, most pubs, when we go out to pubs, and when I go out to pubs myself, most men just, you see them, they're at the urinal to go finish before you, or just leave straight out the door. Not interested.
I can't believe that.
It's disgusting.
I remember I did have a bidet in an old house that I lived in Ipswich, one of my sort of childhood houses. I just remember looking at it and thinking, is this just a small child's toilet?
Yeah, that's what it looks like, isn't it?
It's like, is this for me? Should I be using this? And it just sat there, and no one really knew what it was. I don't even think we knew what to call it. We didn't even know it was a bidet. How did you
find that a bidet was just in your house suddenly? Surely someone must have known what it was to put it there.
Yeah, no, obviously that was
by the house.
It's just a weird thing to see in a British house because it's quite a European tradition, isn't it? Something that's standard. And I think it's actually like in law that you've got to have every house got to have a bidet or something like that in Europe.
No, it's not. But what's like? Oh, okay, I've got 100. I'll pay you 150 grand for this house, mate. But I've just been up in the bathroom. Just noticed you've got this little baby's toilet next to the main toilet. So can we do it for 120? Like, I don't know. But that's classic kind of anti-European people putting out that rubbish about things like bidets and needing a bidet and all that. No one needs a bidet in law. There was laws that the hot tap needed to be click as it got to a certain heat, so you didn't burn yourself.
Okay, it's interesting.
Remember John Prescott talking about that? If you're interested, listeners, go and
I won't be checking that out. I don't think. I'll leave that.
I've got my afternoon booked. Come on, let's get a move on my schedule.
Do you have any hangover tips? They mention eating some yogurt, chopsticks are no good.
That's my favourite quotes. Yeah, green tea, white tea, red bush tea, and green red bush tea, all in one cup, 4 tea bags.
4 tea bags? Are you serious?
Yeah, 1 cup. Yeah.
Oh my god! And it work?
Well, not really. It's a bit of a waste of money. No, it's very healthy. It counteracts all the damage that anything does to you, such as smoking, which I don't smoke, as you know.
No, you don't.
If I did smoke, it would counteract that damage. Counteract the damage of drinking. But it doesn't cure a hangover, but it makes it better. It's a great way to hydrate yourself. Bit of caffeine in, but not too much. So every nutrient under the sun that you could want are in those 4 tea bags. I recommend it to anyone, unless you're a killer.
I'm going to try that next time. I've been doing the classic rehydration tablets, and quite frankly, I'd love them to sponsor this podcast because I need a lot of that. But the 2 tablets, and I'll tell you what, because I had some drinks last night, and I feel bright. Is it fresh as a daisy now? Okay, bright as a button. I'm gonna make a katsu curry later. I literally he's got his washing machine fixed. He's well happy. Washing machine's fixed, ovens fixed. Having a katsu wasn't curry. Even broken apparently. So no, got them out for nothing. At the end of the show, Ricky says when they're coming up with names for the pillars of rock and the king who stands astride them, he comes up with the name Velvet Nazi 666, which hardcore fans will know. Ricky actually does a sort of fake ad, a sort of spoof radio ad in Series 0, where Velvet Nazi 666 is one of the artists that he sort of parodies. And then what does he say? He says one of his bands, he was going to call it the Sacred Hearts. Yeah. Which is just unreal. What was the other one that there was Christ on a Bike, because they've got a reoccurring thing, don't they, about bad band names. But this was like where they really had it out because they got Camfield in, so they could go for proper ones. But there was another one. Can you remember? So there was tungsten lung hemorrhage. Oh, that's it. Yeah, hemorrhage. God dildo, balls of steel. Brain hammer, tumor fish, and death, and then they settle on deathly hem. Tumor fish, I think. Tumor fish. Do you know? I was in. I don't know if I've told listeners this or you, quite frankly. Do you know everyone wanted to be in band, didn't they, at school? Well, I wrote lyrics. You write poetry now, which is similar. And I wanted to be in a band, but I've got no musical talent, and I just said, I'll be the singer. So I managed to herd together a few people, like my friend Jacob, who he's like grade something mental on piano. He was amazing. My friend Brandon, who had a bass guitar, and he was a bit of a tosser. Of course he was. Then I got someone else to play. My friend.
I wish
Tim.
I was in this. Oh yeah, I can't.
He did drums.
Horrendous. This.
And then I can't remember who the guitarist was, but I took it deadly serious. We booked a rehearsal space, and then it got to rehearsal, and we literally arrived, and we didn't do anything because no one really knew enough to play. We had no ideas for any songs. No, I didn't have the balls to sing. I said I was a singer. Every time they said, "Okay, let's just do like Wonderwall or something," and I was like, "Yeah, all right."
Yeah, in a minute.
3, 2,
could I just
1, and
Isn't
I
it
just
annoying
couldn't. I know.
Shopping with your nan and...
I just liked all the like just saying that I was in the band, and then I named the band, and guess what the name was?
All right, what was it?
It was
Gay Dragon.
No, it was Parallel Collision.
Yeah, that's very you.
I think I was just
doesn't make sense, mate.
It doesn't make sense because you can't know how to. And I think I was just trying to look for cool sort of space agey words that were kind of like a bit like Muse or something like that.
Yeah. What? So hang on, was there two collisions happen parallel next to each other, or was it on a parallel road? So it doesn't make which it's sort of like it's
so the
bullshit,
band. I was all about the name. I wasn't about the content. I was
as bad as the name are, that sounds like the best thing that came out of your band.
It definitely was.
That name?
I had a clever idea. I wanted to use.
It'll come out one day, Mars, when he's famous, he'll publish the sessions of those bands. Just doing nothing.
Set up a MySpace page and everything for the band. I thought, we're going to be big. Going to be huge. Despite
At what
the fact
point
that I
did you think you were going to be big?
I don't know. It was so bad. I would never do that again now. Christ.
About you now. There you go. I could have been.
I like the Steve's anecdote about the sponsorship girls. He does.
Oh, yeah. It's a bit like, it's like, should you ever like go anywhere near a 13-year-old girls? Because the connotations. I was worried Ricky was going to say something horrendous then. But yeah, it was funny that £3 because Ricky was like, well, you wouldn't have given that charity to £3. So even if they don't give it to charity, they still know the charity's not benefiting and it wouldn't have done anyway. But yeah, I could have had that with me. So it is funny. Yeah, it's a good anecdote.
And
it's so funny it never comes up ever else. Like he only tells that on this show.
Yeah.
I guess because it had happened that week, I guess. But you'd think that would have come up on some of the podcasts or on the Xfm shows.
Well, I just get so much enjoyment about thinking about how uncomfortable Steve would be in that moment when
getting it out of his pocket and
the money he means. I've put together my own pillars of rock.
Okay.
Do you want to know who they are? So, for reference,
I'll add to them.
Cool. So Ian Camfield's one were Lemmy, Keith Moon, Keith Richards, Robert Plant, and Tommy Vance
Robert Plant.
as the king who stands astride them. So mine were Liam Gallagher, headed by Liam Gallagher. All right.
Yeah. All right. I'll give you that.
I'm gonna have Keith Richards as well because
I'd have Brandon Flowers. Yeah, go on.
You'd have Brandon Flowers.
Yeah, because he's like really, really sort of saccharine and like unoffensive, but he still can rock it out. He's
That's
not
bad.
unoffensive.
Wow,
he's a Mormon. Anyway, go on.
I'd have Johnny Marr.
Yeah.
And he is a brilliant guitarist. On drums, I'm having Dave Grohl. Because he's got to be one of the best drummers, isn't he?
He did all his own drumming.
Nirvana.
Did all his own drumming. No, he did. He sort of,
a lot of people don't know this about Dave Grohl.
He had
all his own
freedom. He had a lot of freedom in Nirvana that he came up with a lot of those, like especially tracks like "Come as You Are" and "Lithium," "Heart-Shaped Box." Yeah, Lithium. They've got really like the drumming is an important part of it. More I know it always is, but more so than a lot of songs. That's not my opinion. That's an opinion that I've taken from someone else that I saw on YouTube.
When Gary's doing his music tutoring, he says, now drumming's a really big important part of a song, right? And if you want to be in parallel collision, you better fucking learn your notes, all right?
Got to do well. I wouldn't swear because they're only children. So I'd give them £3 and they'll be on their way. £3 in a music lesson. Take me time.
So, who are you going to have in your 4 pillars of rock and the leader who stands astride them?
I'd have Noel, right?
You'd have Noel, not Liam.
Rock it out more. No, because he's got to have someone to write.
I think you were just going to say you'd have Oasis.
Yeah, Bonehead, Squigsy.
It's weird because they're all from the same band.
Yeah, the same. But that's sort of where my.
But they're good because they've already met.
Yeah, no, that's I think that's what I'd have. Who would have on drums apart from that?
Meg Ryan,
Zach Starkey. I don't know who's good on drums.
Travis Baker from Bob Barker from he's quite famous, isn't he? From Blink-182.
Oh yeah. Too Many Tattoos. Do you know? I know a drummer who was in a band who charted.
Called what?
Charted. They were called the Gallows.
Oh, right.
Do you know of them?
Really? Yeah, I used to listen to the Gallows.
I went to school with the drummers.
Wow.
Did you?
Yes, yeah.
Lee Barrett is the drummer, and they've disbanded now. I think they
I had a Gallows T-shirt. I think I had a Gallows T-shirt. Yeah, before actually listening to the band because I like T-shirt, and I quite liked the fact that it made me look cool.
Yeah, because the Gallows and it's like all big naughty work.
Yeah, Gallows. So quite a statement.
Gallows were Lee Barrett, the drummer, he's a big Tottenham fan. He took a lot of money off me at school because I had bets with him on Watford versus Tottenham, and I always lost. He was a friend at school, and he was obsessed with music, and he's the drummer.
Oh, good on you!
So it's great.
Nice
they supported Hemorrhages. What was it? No, they supported some big bands. Yeah. I can't remember what they're called, but they did support quite big guys.
Yeah, they were kind of same league as Bring Me the Horizon.
Yeah, I'm sure they were. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Screamo music.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You love that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love that. Should we go and watch a film together?
Let's do that now because we're going to have a break.
We'll have.
Anyway, welcome back. This is the DJ Spinners podcast with Mars and Gary. Hello again.
Hello.
Nice to have you with us. Right, just in time because we're going to do some favourite quotes. Do you want to go?
Oh yeah. Do you want me to? Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me
or?
I'm
not talking to you. I must be talking to you.
Okay, so I'll start. They're not regular people.
Who's that about?
When he's saying exactly. We're not going to know. He says at the beginning. I think it's Ian saying about their listeners, or maybe Steve, and he says they're not regular Xfm listeners.
Oh right,
they're not regular people.
Oh, that's bad, isn't it? When they say Steve about the Chinese, says I would need to inspect to make sure they're they are definitely Chinese.
It's bad. Yeah.
Going out with Diano Tuesday night. I like
this is my next one. Paul Diano doesn't snort ants, he snorts Anteaters.
That's literally my next one.
Oh yeah.
Who is Paul Diano? I don't even know.
I don't know. I was going to ask you.
I've got no idea. This is funny. The cleanest arse in modern magic. The shiny arse they call it.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, shiny arse.
The cleanest arse in modern magic.
That's good. Richard Ashcroft, if you're listening. I think he says sorry. I didn't write that down. But he says, Richard Ashcroft, if you're listening, sorry. This is when Rick is saying something ridiculous. And they were associating themselves with Richard Ashcroft before that. But again, I can't even remember it.
Yeah, I know. But this is the problem, isn't it? When you... Half of the fun about favourite quotes is saying them in Ricky's voice.
Just
and
like,
normally
exactly.
You're familiar with that.
Bang, bang,
Whereas
bang.
I listened to the show this morning and I've written all these notes, but I'm like... I can't remember how he said them, and that's the funny bit, isn't it? Because none of my friends washes that arse. See, do you know what I mean? Like that alone.
Yeah, we don't. It's
not funny enough.
I can't remember who said it.
Exactly.
But no, some people don't like us doing Ricky's voice. Oh, they did Ricky's voice. They pretended they were Ricky. Okay, or chairwoman. Don't be sexist.
I've got that one. I've got that as well.
I've got one more.
So I've got a few. We haven't done Little Chinese Fellas or the Gays yet. That's still to come in the second hour.
Yeah, you might say that. I couldn't possibly say that. Wouldn't be on course someone. Not that I would anyway. But this came up earlier. But I'm having a nightmare eating yogurt.
With chopsticks.
With chopsticks. That's what I've done. But
that is very fun. Okay, I've got three. Don't go on a bender in China. There's a follow up to that, which I definitely won't say. They've got a bit of Queen, they've got a bit of AC/DC. It's all in there. You've got a bit of Bruce Forsyth. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Nice broad. And then I dress like an Albanian window cleaner at the moment. But what are your favourite quotes? Email in spinnerspodcast@gmail.com or on Twitter.
No, don't bother this week.
No, I think they should. This is the episode where I do want some opinions on, because I want to know if this is some people's favourite, if people hate it, if they skip it.
No, I'm joking.
You don't want to hear anything.
I want people's opinions. Of course I do. And you're right, actually. It'll be more interesting in a way in this episode than it would normally.
The usual proceedings are as follows. I read all the emails, and Gary, during this section, will just get to listen to them for the first time.
Miles reads them all. He collates them all. Puts them in a little app. So he's got puts and writes out the little names on the little
exactly.
sheet, and he does all, and then he reads them out on air. He does everything. No, I do sometimes read them, and I react. That's how I earn my money.
He earns his 20 quid.
Going on about it.
I know. Anyway, XFM in the community.
XFM in the community.
This one from Louis Hessiantel, who has also joined us on Patreon. So do head over to Patreon for
thank you.
Exclusive hashtag content, feats, Miles and Gary, at least one show a month, upwards of £3. That's minimum low tier. Join that.
Well, there is no high tier. So
treat someone special. Valentine's Day's coming up.
Yeah, you might as well do the low tier because there is no high tier. So just
do the tier. Louis says, or Lewis, evening boys. Here's something that you might have already thought of, but if not, prepare to have your mind blown. According to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the meaning of life is 42. Coincidentally, that's number of Macs in the Scottish phone book. It's the number of steps the beheaded Frenchman took, and also the cost of an expensive torch in a Rockbusters clue. Now, assuming Darren Brown, the cleanest arse in modern magic, wasn't one of us, he could have known all this. However, he might look up certain types of people. For example, a shaved chimp, and guess that might have been influenced by the residual cultural impact of Douglas Adams' most famous creation. Hence, Mr. 42. Thoughts? Question mark? Keep up the podcasting. Pipe dreams are good in a way.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
That's a very interesting theory. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it before. I know that psychologically there's something about the number 42 that makes it more likely to be said, and that's probably why it was Douglas Adams. It goes with it on Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because it's close enough to the middle. But it's not. You never pick anything at the extremities. You might if you're thinking about it, but most people will go for 42 or 40 something for some reason. So it's more likely to be picked. But then 42 for the is it 40? Yeah, I'm just trying to think. What else? Yeah, 42 steps. Is it 42 steps, or is he just making that? But let's say it is.
Yeah, it's the beheaded Frenchman.
It's a number that comes to your head as a human, like 42. If you're grabbing for a number around that size, it often is 42. Psychology. I don't know the psychology behind that, but that's been studied.
Well, if a psychologist listens to this, or a postman,
it's good. That's the best thing you've ever said.
Yeah, it is.
Well done. He took something from the show, and it's something that I was saying just then. And he really
married the two together.
Yeah, and then I ruined it by commenting so much on it. Deconstructing it.
We do deconstruct comedy too much
to his face.
Okay, so next one is because I haven't had
Lewis.
A lot. Thank you. Do carry on.
Interesting thing. I like that.
This made me laugh. This is so. I'll get onto a poll that we did on Twitter, but this just really made me laugh. It was my favourite Reddit post, and just shows the level of creativity and imagination people have when they're sort of hate. There's a thing, isn't it? Hate watching. People like to hate watch. I'm a bit like that with The Apprentice. I love it, and I also hate the people. So and also there was an interview with Jacob Rees-Mogg, and I was like, I am going to listen to this because I like Nick, whatever his name is, who does
Nick
Today
Ferrari,
program. No, but I fucking hate his voice, Jacob Moggs. I can't stand the bastard. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about here. Comedian. These are people who've hate watched Afterlife and comment on it. Comedian rapped over Netflix profanities. Comedian Ricky Gervais has had a dressing down from a Tim Pot subreddit for his repeated use of the word cunt in a Netflix TV show. The Ricky Gervais subreddit mercilessly mocked the comedian for his coarse language in the programme on streaming service Netflix. The subreddit acknowledged that the comedian's remarks were intended to be humorous, but took the view that the large quantity of swearing had in fact written into the script in lieu of actual jokes, said the subreddit member in a statement. The jibes referred to the comic sitcom Afterlife, throughout which protagonist Tony Johnson insults various other characters with the word cunt. Gervais's character wonders aloud whether life is inherently meaningless after the death of his wife, and as a consequence begins treating those around him in an inexplicably contemptuous and callous manner. A Ricky Gervais spokesman said the comedian went on and on about it for nearly 3 seasons. Netflix, a self-styled alternative streaming service, said in its defence that its remit was to provide banal, saccharine programmes for the masses. The platform said the programme's brief was to include lowest common denominator comedy within certain shows that would not fit within a more critically acclaimed or well thought out format. In this particular show, it was absolutely the comedian's intention to shock when you took a cynical look at how he could bypass the laborious process of writing good material by simply repeating the word cunt at every opportunity. Gervais, whose big break was on Stephen Merchant's The Office, has shot to international household status through his book portrayal of Derek Notes, a mentally disabled man in the equally broad and pedestrian sitcom Derek. Oh, I'm glad I got through that.
Yeah, that's good. He's
very well written. Well. I mean, long, convoluted.
Imagine if I've tried to read that out. Given my record. No, but that was very good, very perceptive, very clever, like in how he kind of used certain kind of form of those writing. Like, so for example, when he says Netflix, comma, a streaming service, like that's a classic kind of way that they tell you what Netflix is part of the wider story, but without saying, right, Netflix is this, they do it as a little comma.
And that he just explained how jokes work there, just in case you didn't get it.
Just bang, bang, bang. I'm saying, if anyone wants to know why something's funny, come to me. 079 004. Oh, no.
Whoa.
No, I won't do that.
Okay, so let's return.
Still out there.
Let's return to our poll that we posted on our Twitter, at Spinners Podcast. Gary's been learning about memes and
I got done some good memes.
Yeah, he found out what a meme was.
Me do good meme. Me do good meme.
So this was a recent poll that we put out, and actually it's still active. It's got 1 hour left, so we'll just base the results on what we've got already. Anyway, funniest bloopers / outtakes, and I said special shout out to The Office Values Microsoft UK training, which, come on, that is top tier.
I think that's probably a top, actually. That's better than anything. Is the outtakes from that?
We'll have to post that with the shows if you haven't seen it. It's what is it, like a little supporting sort of promotional video?
They did it for Microsoft. Microsoft approached them and they were big enough. Microsoft is a big enough company. They must have paid them so much money. Ricky and Steve both never wanted that released. They were furious it got released, but it was just as an actual. That's a genuine training video that they actually used. Like, and they used Steve as the real voice. Yeah, so. Obviously, they didn't use the outtakes, but it all got released, and it is brilliant. Actually, it's when they could still write like proper, really good.
Max Falls, the name, in a wig, and it's still.
That's Angelos Epiphemus. Anyway.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah. Dan something, I think his name is. Anyway, so the choices were The Office, Extras, Derek, and Afterlife.
You're asking them what the best outtakes are from each of those series.
Correct.
Right. Okay, so can I guess then? Shall I guess?
Let's go with what you'd say first.
Okay, what were the 4 again? What
are the options again?
I didn't even know.
Very much The Office, Extras, Derek, and Afterlife.
Oh well, come on, it's The Office. Actually, Extras is brilliant, especially with Les Dennis.
When he gets his knob out with a towel.
Knob? Oh yeah, that one.
Oh no, that's Keith Cheggers.
Oh, that's Keith Cheggers. Yeah. I always get those two confused. I always have done in my life. So after Extras is good. It's great at times. I think nothing beats The Office, particularly the Christmas specials. Tim is Bishop Muzarewa, and I remember Bishop Muzarewa. He's such an obscure figure, even if you Google him, this hardly anything. But I remember Bishop Muzarewa, and that's why Martin Freeman collapses so much, because it's like the most obscure reference that someone would just about understand, like to use in that context.
Well, there's that infamous one as well where he's doing the appraisals. Says, right, what are you going to do next? Because that is pointing downwards to the chair. That is ridiculous.
What is that?
What?
Yeah.
That is it. When you see Ricky, we go, fucking hell, 6-7 takes. Come on, Martin, it's embarrassing.
No, it's about 60 seconds. Yeah, 60 seconds, not 67. But yeah, they're on like take 50 or something. I just cannot imagine how they are still not recording some of that, because how they ever ended up getting it's just so. But having done a very tiny, minor little bit of unprofessional acting, where we're filming in in my flat, the bit I'm thinking of, and I just we all of the we couldn't. I don't know how we did.
Do you know what
bit in the end? I don't know how
so if you go on popular video streaming service YouTube and type in Alan, I'll put a link into the description. This was a little sketch Gary and I wrote years and years ago. They're not going to get it
if they type in Alan.
I'll put the link in the description. They can just they can go there.
It's not that big that it comes up Alan first hit.
Anyway, we wrote a little sketch and it's got Gary in the leading role. So do check that out because it's very funny. But you are absolutely right. It's just the little things that will just crack you up and you'll just corpse.
And there was no reason, nothing funnier happened then. There's funnier things that happened, like intrinsically funnier things in other scenes, and we didn't laugh, we didn't get like that. It's just something about me turning around, looking back, and I caught your eye a couple of times, and you weren't just behind camera, and then I just went, and you went, and we done. I think really it's well just good. I thought we'd go earlier with each other, like and see, but. Then the person who was filming and his girlfriend who was doing sound, she went as well. And it was just, I don't know how we ever got that bit. But luckily, it was the last bit of everything that we filmed. And if you do watch it, it wasn't finished. So
no, there's a scene, just to put it in context, there's a scene where Gary turns around to reveal an ironing board that's dressed like as a table for two, and it's just quite a sad, depressing image of this character that we'd written. But anyway, and Gary, all he had to do was turn around to look at
look mournfully,
the perspective, and just look mournfully. And I was sat there, and we had Natalie Imbruglia's Torn over the top of it, which just the marriage of those three things, Gary's sort of face still chuckles now thinking about that. Anyway, we're waffling. So what are you going to pick? And what do you think the listeners
I'll
picked?
pick The Office. I think they picked The Office, but Extras will be up there. That's my opinion. And then Derek will be down the bottom, and then third will be probably Afterlife at the bottom, and then Derek.
Yeah, you got it right. Office, Extras, so Derek, Afterlife.
So I think there'll be a big gap between. There'll be Derek and Afterlife on a similar score, and then a big gap to Extras and Office on a similar-ish score. Is that right?
Yeah, you're like you nailed it.
Really?
Okay, so we've got like 40% Office, 33% Extras, Derek on 14, and Afterlife on 11. To be fair, I watched a few of the Afterlife ones because I was like, all these places like Lad Bible, Unilad, all those sort of you'll never believe the funniest Extras. It's just that Ricky's forcing like laughter.
Yeah.
He does totally that thing.
That. I've seen one. Yeah,
he does that. It
just doesn't feel real in them. Whereas Extras, you watch that.
Oh my god,
that's so he's not forcing anything to be that Ricky Gervais who laughs a lot. No, he just was.
But the faces he pulls, like he does that thing where he retreats his head in, like retracts it like a tortoise into a shell. He's still got a double chin at that time, and he's just chuckling away. Just love those images. So anyway, Joe Green says this is some of the correspondence. Although the nicknames bit from the Ratty and Nonce from Afterlife is literally the funniest thing ever recorded. I actually didn't really care for Extras as a show, but the bloopers are top shelf.
Yeah.
So I guess we should check some of these out.
What was the first bit he said?
So apparently, I don't know enough, but he says the nicknames bit from the Ratty and Nonce from Afterlife. If you've seen that show, you'll probably know what that means because I don't, but I will check it out. Me Pemberton says Bishop Mazawewa.
Oh yeah, did he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, me.
Phil Dickinson did a little a gif of Keith Chegwin doing knob goes and fanny. Not up the arse.
Just not up the
arse. Peter Fletcher
Patrick did the Stewart ones as well.
Oh, they're fantastic. Peter Fletcher did the quote, all right, mate, just check this out. That's when he's doing the boobs. You know, James did this brilliant gif as well. He said Maxwell's the name with a little gif of Maxwell, which is a very. Have you ever watched any of his comedy? Because it's very
Maxwell. Well, he's sort of
he's
like
got
a
pointy shoes,
almost just after Chaplin. So it was almost he's sort of so early that they barely had sound, but they did have sound. Like
I thought he's more like Tommy Cooper or like that sort of school.
No, I thought it was like 40s, 50s. Like maybe Chaplin's sort of 20s, 30s, but
it's very
Maxwell's sort of like who did a bit Laurel and Hardy-ish, but a bit after Laurel and Hardy.
Adam Brooks said Joe 90. Don't know what that means.
Right.
And Karl says at Clem Fandingo, extras, the scenes with Steve and Ricky having to do take after take is great, and that refers to the boobs and the pen thing.
Have you seen this? But I don't know. Yeah, when he's spitting in the cup, and it is a bit disgusting.
Oh,
but Ricky is a bit of a dick as well. Like, I'll get no, we're changing it. Like, no, it's not, no humour, sort of, you know, off screen. So I don't like that. That's the only bit of extras I don't like, that scene.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But it's funny. It's very funny.
Adam says Finding Leo and Bishop Mizuewa are the two that I always go back to.
Well, Finding Leo doesn't count because it's not an outtake, but it is still brilliant. So I'll give you that. Yeah. It's not an outtake, is it? Bishop Mizuewa. Again, I've got a couple of Bishop Mizuewas. Like, see, other people remember Bishop. You're a bit young, but you would remember. It's like coming on, like, you know, about struggles in Africa, tribes and things, and like Desmond Tutu, but a lower level Desmond Tutu. He's just on the news, you just hear his name as a kid. Bishop Mizuewa said, and then for Ricky to use that is just, it's so fun. It's funnier because it's more obscure, and that's how jokes work. Gary's course online next Tuesday.
Thanks very much. God,
How Jokes Work by Gary Forrestal.
That's the sound of any humour.
Yeah, whatever humour there was is gone.
Yeah, and then just a few little smattering, is that a word? Of people comments on YouTube based on the Ian Camfield one, which I always like to get a little cross section. Ricky is in his element in this episode, one of my faves. Genuinely one of my favourite episodes. The Monoliths of Rock is a fantastic segment. Camfield is a surprisingly good producer / co-host. Ricky and Steve really seem to respect him and don't mind when he speaks up. They work as a great team. A boring episode, but entertaining and well done nonetheless. Karl is the best, but Steve is so funny in these episodes without Karl. This was actually quite good. The number of people saying they don't listen to the eps where Karl isn't there definitely haven't listened to the Claire eps. I get that. This ep is very different and is probably one of my least favourites, but the Claire episodes are classics and some of the best ever recorded.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they're the best ever recorded, but they are classics. There's brilliant moments in them. They're very good episodes in and of themselves. This one, I've listened to it now fully for the first time. I'm not convinced. It's still better than a lot of most radio that I'd listened to, and most things I'd listened to. So it's better than that, but it's not. It didn't quite hit. It didn't have 5, 6 lot. You know, I had 5 quote, but there wasn't 5 or 6 points I'd laugh out loud. But maybe if I'd listened again, I'd start hearing things in it that I did like. But it's okay. It just wasn't anything special.
I think it definitely passed Kermode's 6 laughs for a comedy test. I laughed 6 times.
I'm a bit more stringent. No, it was good. They're sort of smattering of laughs. So
I liked
lower level.
On like laughs and just the sound of someone laughing. Ricky's laugh is brilliant. I'm
doing a segment on this at Gary teaches jokes. Gary's wild jokes.
It's
segment on laughs.
But I loved hearing his laughter. I loved just hearing his laughter was just so refreshing. Hearing Ricky's. No, Ricky's.
Oh, Ricky's, yeah. Oh, yeah, it was
just like laughs that you haven't heard before. And I did enjoy that about this episode.
Yeah, it's a new Ricky laugh. Yeah, it's slightly different. But it's very similar. But it's always a joy to hear Ricky laugh in those days and not an afterlife retakes where he's forcing it out.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically all I've got because I'm bored of talking to you now. I want to wrap it up.
Love that bit.
They do. They love that bit. Have you seen one of these calm benches before we go?
What?
So apparently, you know the mental health charity campaign against living miserably.
Oh yeah, I wrote for them. I did a little blog.
Apparently they did a kind of partnership with Netflix and Afterlife and Ricky, and they've erected 25 benches they've donated to local councils, and they mark and launch the series of Afterlife. They're apparently most of them in London, but there's some in Nottingham apparently. And you know, like benches often have a like dedication or a tribute to someone who's passed away, and these are like branded ones for Netflix. As a kind of place.
Oh, that doesn't sit well with me. That's their advertising Netflix through that. No, you don't put Netflix. Oh, that's just cheap.
But then he was
got a calm sofa.
I do debate this thing. So I sort of get that it's a tribute to the series, and that's kind of like one of the major scenes. But do people seriously people expecting to make friends on a bench to sit down? Let's go. Oh, hello.
But it's not that. It's advertising Netflix on the little bit. If they put Netflix like sponsored by Netflix or whatever, that's just cheap. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Do you know
Netflix,
what I mean? They've got enough money. Give some money to me. Keep those off the benches.
I don't know. I thought it was Ricky said, these are a place to bring people together, create a community, get a conversation going about loneliness. No one's going to use that. And then instead he said, can you send us your selfies of sitting on the bench? So then it becomes a marketing idea, doesn't it? As you say.
That's it. All the clips I've seen of him is him sat on that bench, like just like on the music's cliche and the camera angles swooping in and swooping back up from behind, and then they just do it, it's like directing 101. Anyway, I haven't directed anything yet.
He has directed anything.
I can't really. I've got less success than Ricky,
you do.
So I know that.
One day you might get your own Netflix show.
One night.
Anyway, this has been one hell of a show, Gary.
Hell of a show, yeah. Oh, it really has, Mars, by now.
With guest
just quickly, your choir. You're on week 3 now, so you're going to be doing week 3. What's he foregrounded that's going to be going on next week? Are you new song or working on the same one, or what's going on?
So we've just finished Whiz on Down the Road by Whiz the musical. Next week we will be next week we will be practicing the breakout hit Somewhere from the West Side Story. So I look forward to telling you all about that next week, you and listeners. But no, I've been practicing my vocal cords.
I'm ill next week.
I don't actually like that song, but maybe it'll be better.
La 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 la. Yeah, is that does it vocal?
It's like how does it go?
Yeah, go on, say it to me and I'll sing it.
There's a place for us.
There's a place for us.
Yeah. Do you want to join?
Sunshine.
Okay.
And the moonlight.
Okay, I think that's going to be time to go, guys. Cheers.
Not bad. See you later.